We are in conversation with Mr. Sajjan Jindal of the JSW Group. Tell us, how aggressive is JSW Steel going to be in terms of boost power and steel? Is that an asset you want?
So we've been very, I would say, realistic in our acquisition strategy. We have never looked at that it's a must-buy kind of thing, because we don't feel that there is anything which is a must-buy.
Right.
We don't want to regret at a later date that we overpaid and today we are suffering because we took a decision in few years ago. We had taken a decision in 2008 and acquired a plate mill in the US, and we regret it even today. So because we were very aggressive and we thought that and also at that time we realized that to buy any asset at the peak of the cycle is the worst time to buy.
Right.
You have to buy when the cycle is at its not at the peak but at its worst. That's true for anything. Even if you want to buy a stock, you must not buy a stock at the peak of the cycle, right? So so therefore we made a sort of a mistake at that time. So we are super realistic now, and we want to be very careful in buying any asset. We don't want to overpay for any asset.
Is there a possibility of keeping the JSW Steel global dreams separate and the Indian story separate, or you want to keep it together under the consolidated name JSW Steel?
I mean, no, JSW Steel will be the main holding body, and we could see that we list the overseas companies separately, and merge them and list them separately. But this is a long story. I mean, this can't happen overnight. We have just acquired a couple of assets, one in US and one in Europe, and we have to build on them, and we have to create capacities there. And once that happens, then we may list that separately in New York or in London, wherever, and that would be still held by JSW Steel.
But at what stage would you look at listing that entity? Would it be once you hit 5 million tons? Would it be 8 million tons, 10 million tons? Do you have any kind of
10 million tons? That's a minimum size. Then only we feel it's worthwhile to take it there.
Let's talk about the government of India and the support that they've been giving over the last few years. We had MIP, we had an anti-dumping duty as well, and there's been good support actually that's been coming in from the government of India. What more can they do?
So much before what President Trump did or European Union did for their steel industry or providing protection, Government of India was actually probably they took the lead in providing some sort of safety to their home country industries. And MIP and anti-dumping duty was a result of that, because as a steel industry body, we went and explained this to the minister in the government, and we explained that why steel is so important for any country, and why India needs to produce more steel, and why we need more steel going forward. And if the Indian steel industry dies, then we will be relying on all imports coming in from China or from some other country. And we will not have any steel industry in the country, which is so critical, so important for a growing economy. So I think the government really realized that, and they took measures which was very, very timely and very important. Today those measures are not required because, as I said, prices are moved up. There is no protection today, but when we needed protection, government really came forward and supported us. So I'm really very, very happy and very thankful to this government that they were so proactive and so quick on this.
What about the government's ambitious plan of going to 300 million tons by 2030? What percentage of that would JSW Steel like to have? And my other query, sir, is that in the past we have seen a lot of companies go in there, take a lot of debt, add capacity. In the recent part, we have only had JSW Group as well as the Tata Group. They're talking about adding capacities. The others are talking about deleveraging. Is that 300 million tons doable as an India story?
No, 300 tons has to happen. I mean, who does it, how it happens is a question mark, is something which is very difficult to know. But I believe that 300 million tons will happen, because we will continue to consume 8 to 10% growth every year.
Okay.
And therefore we would need 8-10 million tons more capacity every year, and which will go on increasing as the base goes up. So now, you know, for example, we are not increasing our debt, JSW Steel. While we are growing, we are not increasing our debt. We are growing mostly through internal accruals or through equity raise if need be. But as of now, we don't see that need, because we are generating enough cash flow to grow and grow aggressively, but within the internal accruals. Even if we have to take our debt a little bit higher, but still it will be much more lower than any competition in the world.
You talk about some equity raising, and the street, Mr. Jindal, has been waiting whether or not JSW Steel, being such a big outperformer, is it going to come ahead and tap the equity markets? Or is JFE going to come and take a larger part of the listed company JSW Steel? Is a QIP in the works?
So no, so there is no plan for any equity raise as of today, because as I said, we have enough cash generation to handle our capital expenditure program.
Yeah.
And also JFE, we have not made any plans to to give more equity to JFE. I think JFE is very comfortable at 15%. And we are also very comfortable with JFE holding 15%. So there is no real plan for equity raise.
Yeah.
But I said that if there was a need in the future, then we always had an opportunity to raise the equity.
Well, Mr. Jindal, maybe there are no equity plans as of now, but the promoter group is clearly very bullish on the stock. I was just looking at the Bombay Stock Exchange and the disclosures out there. And in fact, the promoters have bought a couple of lakh shares, even though the stock is at a lifetime high. What's the targeted shareholding out there? Because in the last few years, the holding has increased from around 37%, closer towards 42%. Is there any target promoter holding you have in mind?
So there is no real target, but we whatever surpluses the promoter group gets in their annual account, we tend to, rather than investing outside the group, we believe that the best investment is in your own self. So, which is not true with most groups, right? Yeah. So they invest in, they do diversify their portfolio. My son doesn't like it to increase our own holding, but I believe that you know, there cannot be anybody better than me to invest in a business. So I'm investing in my own business. So therefore, we've been doing it over the last 4-5 years. So we don't have any target. At 42%, we are very comfortable. But if we were 51, we would be better off. But I don't think the numbers really matter to me. It is that I don't even come into picture, because we have our family office which keeps deciding. But my instruction to them is that don't invest outside the group.
Well, Mr. Jindal, you know, you put it perfectly. The market experts can say what they want, but if a promoter goes out there and increases stake, he's the best analyst on his own stock.
Sure.
And if he's increasing, you know, if he's bullish on his stock, that tells a story in itself. But you were also telling us about your net debt. Pretty comfortable as we speak. Net debt to EBITDA is at around 2.5 times. But the steel cycle has been doing very, very well. Any targeted number in terms of debt, the net debt to EBITDA?
So we have sort of announced that 3.75 would be the debt to EBITDA.
Yeah.
And 1.75 would be the debt to equity. These are the ballpark numbers, or the, let's say, the Lakshman Rekha that we have kept, that we will never breach these numbers. Because I remember at one time we had even breached 5 times debt to EBITDA, and in 2002 and 3 and stuff like that. And now we have made it 3.75, and gradually we are going to reduce that. We are going to make it maybe 3 times or something like that. But we are keeping ourselves within that Lakshman Rekha.
What's going on with regard to SR Steel? JSW Steel is part of the consortium. What kind of a stake do you all have in that consortium? How keen are you all in terms of the SR Steel asset?
Well, SR Steel is a good asset. It's an attractive asset. It needs a lot of improvement. We believe that we can do a great deal of justice with that asset. But I really don't know how it is going to play out, because also it is sub judice, so I can't talk too much about it, and I would rather you know, keep it to this level, it's a good asset and we can do good justice with that asset.
And in the consortium, any kind of number in terms of a stake that you'll have in the consortium that is trying to bid for the asset?
I think we have 25 or 26% stake in the consortium.
All right.
As an investor.
Okay, Mr. Jindal, since you're talking to us, we want to understand your plans in terms of, the entire electric car, that news that's been playing out as well. JSW as a group, you're looking at that space rather interestingly. What's
it's not something which is our core strength, core area, but it's driven out of passion, because I'm an auto freak, and I always, since my young days, I've been an auto guy, and I've worked in the auto garages, and while I was doing my engineering, I was training in an auto garage. So it's been always my childhood dream to build a car. So I feel now, electric car gives me an opportunity to enter into a new field, because car industry will go through a huge change. Yeah. And electric car is a different animal compared to a normal car. So we are going to launch that, and we are going to make a real bloody good design and really good car. That's the whole idea.
Well, Mr. Jindal, I knew your passion for the steel industry, cement, energy as well. But cars, that's something I didn't know. Just catching you off guard now. Which is that dream car?
Oh my God. No, there's nothing like a dream car. I mean, with time, the dream car keeps on shifting. It used to be Mercedes Sports at one time, then it was a Porsche at another time. So it keeps on shifting, keeps on changing. So today there is no real dream car, but car as in car is a dream.
All right, Mr. Jindal, good to know, and we'll be waiting by for that electric vehicle coming out of the JSW group.
Soon.
And pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for speaking to us here on CNBC TV18.
Thank you so much.